PT is a game that revels in keeping things just a little outside of our view, so much so that there are many occasions in which we're not even entirely sure if we ever saw anything at all. Something seen fleetingly through the crack of an open door, or a looming figure just visible for a moment before we're able to get a clear idea of what exactly it was. Beyond these moments, perhaps there's things that we never even got to see at all, left outside of the game and on the cutting room floor. Hello everyone, my name is Lance, and today we're going to take an up-close and wholly new look at a select few moments from PT, the playable teaser for Silent Hills. There are many systems that go into building the strange puzzles and events upon which the core gameplay loop of PT is built, and one of those is the ability for the game to switch objects off or on depending on certain conditions. One example of this is an early moment where we see a torn up photo of Lisa on the wall, but a little later when we return to the entrance hallway, we discover the picture frame is now on the ground. The game engine is able to hide and reveal static, unmoving objects through a fairly rudimentary system. These objects always exist in the scene, but are just toggled on or off depending on certain conditions. So a picture frame is one thing, but what about this far more memorable moment a little further into the game? This too is achieved through the clever manipulation of static objects. Lisa is actually standing in the hallway here at all times, but a certain flag is only set to make her visible for just that one brief moment. If we patch the game so that the flag is instead always set, she appears permanently, giving us a rare opportunity to see her up close. One more similar moment exists, which you may not have even noticed. During the game's opening cutscene, for just the most brief moment, the door to the hallway is just slightly open and a standing figure can be seen through the crack. The camera turns away, and when we look back up, whatever was there has gone. By once again applying a small patch to override the normal behavior in this moment, we can walk through the door and see exactly what had been watching us for that brief time. So these objects typically get toggled on or off depending on certain conditions, but interestingly, I noticed at least one object loaded into the game is never made visible under any circumstances, at least not that I'm aware of. Let's take a look at what I found. Of course, the bathroom is a familiar sight for anyone who has played PT, the bathtub normally half filled with water, and in another moment we find it emptied.
So you drowned your sorrows in booze. She had to get a part-time job working a grocery store cash register.
However, a third state exists for the bathtub, which is loaded into memory, but never displayed. This only exists in the normal hallway bathroom, not in the later maze areas, where you might consider it to fit in more thematically. Regardless of that, I feel it speaks for itself, so let's take a look. I think we can use our imaginations to determine how this may have, at some earlier point in development, been planned to fit into the events that occur throughout PT. But perhaps it was considered too gruesome, or maybe just a little too on the nose to fit in with the rest of the experience. Either way, for now, I'm going to leave it at that. Of course, if you follow me on Twitter, you already know I have a lot more left to show you, and as always, I'm constantly working on making new discoveries in minigames, so I appreciate you stopping by at least to check out these little ones today. If you would perhaps consider subscribing, I'd absolutely appreciate it, as any little metric to keep me motivated is always a powerful thing. You can find more ways to follow and support my work in the description, and either way, thank you for watching, I'll see you next time. At the end of PT, we see our protagonist step out into the streets of Silent Hill in a revelatory cutscene which is in fact entirely rendered in real time by the PlayStation 4 hardware. Sadly, the cutscene soon ends, and we never get to visit and explore those streets for ourselves, our experience having been rather limited mostly to the game's looping hallway. But what if there were a way to break out from that loop? Hello everyone, my name is Lance, and today we are going to escape from PT's endless hallway and step out into Kojima Productions' rendition of the streets of Silent Hill.
After killing his family, the father hung himself.
To explain how this is achieved, the game engine used by PT is able to cleverly link together separate map files to create the illusion of an endless loop. By changing the code involved in this process, I was able to seamlessly connect PT's familiar starting room to the map file used for the ending cinematic. Unfortunately, this area is not meant to be traversed by the player character, and thus it has no collision information, and we immediately fall through the ground. Interestingly, this causes Lisa to appear and reset the game. I find it fairly amazing that the developers actually accounted for us finding a way to break out of bounds, and created an event to handle it in such a way, rather than just having us fall endlessly. So in order to circumvent this, I patched the game in a way that causes the player character to float just a small distance above the ground at all times. With this done, we can safely, for the first time ever, explore the streets of Silent Hill as they appear in PT. One of the first things we come across here is the trail which we also saw the protagonist following in the cinematic. This ends in a small puddle, and the main open streets stretch out ahead of us. To the left is a fairly detailed area outside of a massive apartment building. Up on the highest level of the fire escape, we can even see a potted plant. Looking down from up here helps us really appreciate the amount of detail that went into building the area. On the opposite side of the road is a fenced-off parking area with a few cars left unattended, among other things. All throughout, the silhouette of water towers across the rooftops at night communicates Silent Hill's archetypical heavy and oppressive atmosphere. Returning to street level, we can continue exploring down the main road. Miscellaneous clutter lines the streets to make sure every area looks somewhat unique. As is common in Silent Hill, there's a perpetual feeling of the entire world both being under construction and long since abandoned. The street signs, roadblocks, and scaffolding throughout help to create this unwelcoming atmosphere. A larger, unique structure is placed up against the building on the other side of the road, with a potted plant sitting on top. Up ahead is a slightly more richly detailed area. A few more vehicles are placed along the road, accompanied by some signage. Beyond this is some more plant life, from large trees down to tiny plants growing through the gaps in the pavement. The distant lamplight and structures seen from here suggest that we're getting closer to the end of this street now. The pavement has a reflective element when the flashlight's beam hits it just right. The layout of each apartment building is somewhat unique as well, with the fire escapes and air conditioners being hand-placed to avoid repetition. Coming to the end of the main road brings us to a fence with a tree, power lines, and a car on the opposite side. Crossing the road past this fence, there are simply more apartment buildings with decorative features similar to what we saw earlier. Continuing down the road, we come to pass under a large bridge. And finally, making our way through here brings us to the end of the area, with nothing further beyond. I found it fairly amazing to have a chance to explore a somewhat entirely new physical space in PT, something handcrafted by the team at Kojima Productions while in-house at Konami as an official part of the mainline Silent Hill series. While there's no way to be sure what the future holds, this may be the final canonical rendition of Silent Hill ever to exist. So I hope you feel that I helped in some way today by giving you a chance to explore along with me. If you did enjoy the video, feel free to subscribe and hit the like button, and you might consider taking a look at the description below to find a few ways to follow and support my work going forward. I'm always working on showing you something new from games that mean a lot to me, and I hope might also mean something to you as well. Either way, thank you for watching, I'll see you next time.